question right off the bat. Jeremy, where do you source your music for? I mean, obviously this doesn't apply to Foxy Shazam, but for the other stuff that you do.
There's a lot of websites, Premium Beat. There's a lot of like royalty-free music sites. Stuff with like that Explorer, like we had with the Beacon commercial, we had a budget to get a composer, which is always the better route because you can basically tell them, hey, this, here's the piece, we need this mood, and because not all the stuff you just buy that's recorded and already there fits your project, so you can pretty much have a composer work on the whole thing and compose with it and make it a piece, just like movies. In movies they have all the composers and make sure it's perfect. But sometimes the budget doesn't allow, and you just need to buy a $50 song.
I'm not going to get the names right. Really, you had mentioned that you have a child, a little child.
Yes.
How do you find time to write? How do you make time to write around that?
Well, it's very challenging. I wake up at 5:30 every morning, and sometimes I write, sometimes I just kind of stare at a wall. But she just has this uncanny knack of knowing when I've just gotten started on a poem, and that's when she wakes up. She'll sleep till 9 on a day when I'm not writing, but on a day when I am 6. But I'm really lucky that much of the writing I do is for performance, so it has a really hard deadline. And so I think that there's something about having to have it done that you just find a way to get it done. But I don't know, there's no miracle to it. I'll write 5 poems in a week and then go months without writing anything.
Other questions?
I have one.
Go for it. The floor is yours.
For the gentleman on this end, and forgive me, but when you had made a comment, so I'm going to take a chance here and comment on your hospital video.
Yeah.
It's just, I couldn't stop not laughing while I was watching it. It was so good, but you said you were bored with hospital videos, or you found them to be boring, and I can't help but mention that it had like a David Lynch kind of quality to it at certain spots.
That's
and
impressive.
Was it like an underbelly thought while you were making it? Were you having fun with it that way, or
No, but thank you. That's really flattering.
It was
David Lynch
slow on the happy faces in that way that, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, well, I think that the slow motion captures a lot of that. It allows us to slow down and see those.
It had that eerie.
Yeah, just a little crook of the smile. You see that 5 seconds of them smiling, like forming a smile, like slow motion automatically adds emotion.
Right, the cupcake going into the face.
Yep, yeah, the little girl's just like, yes! That's like a cake of a cup. We ate the second one on that one too. Yeah, I think the slow motion was a lot of the way that we were able to draw that emotion out. And the cameras are getting better and better. You barely have to light anything anymore. We use natural light, so we have a lot going for us on that end that makes us look better. The cameras.
It's wondered if you were having that kind of fun with it behind the scenes, just taking a few moments.
Yeah. Well, we wanted emotion for sure. So slow motion was the easy way to do it.
As a health caregiver and a person who watches TV, we do get a chance to do that. I think why that piece is effective is because when you're on the receiving end of bad news and you're on the receiving end of being the one waiting to receive news or diagnosis, that is what it feels like. It feels like time is going so slow when in fact it can be moving really fast. And I think you really did a great job capturing that, whether you knew that piece or not.
Yeah, well, I mean, from a personal experience, I had a daughter in the NICU at that time I was filming that. So I think a lot of that, it was really hard for me to be in the NICU when we were shooting the baby scene. But I think I poured a lot of myself into that piece just because what was going on back in Chicago.
Yeah.
So that's probably part of it, that, you know, I knew what that felt like, to be on the receiving end, constantly waiting. And,
so I think that showed, and I think that's why that played so well, is because that's what it's like. You're just waiting for the news, and you're just waiting for that person to get there. And
yeah, you wait like 5 hours and it's 5 seconds of talking.
Exactly.
You're like, what? But yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question for Jane. Just, it seems like, you and I know each other decently well. I've gotten to hear you read a bunch of times and just see you in sort of like your various natural habitats. And for you, it's always the two, poetry, writing, art, whatever, and community activism. And they seem very parallel, like very conjoined for you, where I think for lots of other people, they might consider those two things pretty separate. I'm just wondering if you could speak to that a little bit, why that is for you. If that is for you, or if I'm making that up.
I think that my writing has wandered all over the place during the time that I've done it. But I think when I first started writing, it's because I didn't see myself represented in what I was reading when I was growing up. And so I think that my desire to like make stories and make words came out of that place. But I've also felt, before when I was working in a nonprofit and I was doing community organizing, primarily within Asian American communities, that I was like a split self. Like it depended on what I was doing and where I was, but there have been times where I felt like because I was putting so much of my life into community organizing that I wasn't able to create or write. I remember Justin Chin, who's a slam poet, listening to him talk once and saying, instead of making and I know this is impossible for everybody, but at that time I was listening to him and I was working like 80 hours a week as the only like full-time staffer at my nonprofit. And I wasn't really able to write at that time, and I was really burning myself out. And we were doing like housing stuff, and, like things that felt like, oh my God, today you have to like sit there and like not move, and things like that. I remember him saying like you have to make your writing at the center of your life and have your life flow around it, not the other way around. And so I was like, what can I do to make that happen? And I had to like make a plan to do that. And part of that plan involved, volunteering to get laid off. It was gonna happen anyway. So, and basically I really had to switch my life so that, and I decided that I felt like the nonprofit system was really toxic for me, especially the kind of job I had. And so what I wanted to do was do community stuff. I realized I didn't have to do it the way I was doing it. So that became really important to me to figure out how to kind of combine my writing with my community. But it wasn't always the case. So.
I have a question for the woman on the end here. You seem to feel bad about not being funny. And I was just thinking about that because I'm also a poet and I come to these events a lot. And it does seem like a lot of the poets are funny and they try to be funny. And it's hard. Humor is not easy no matter how you try to write it. And, I don't know. It's like going to a film, going to a comedy or an art house movie. More people are going to go to these blockbuster comedies so they can laugh, but it's the art house movies that are going to touch you more and, just stay with it. And I kept thinking, well, why did she apologize? She's so energetic. And I didn't think your stuff was downer at all, but the thing is there's a lot of art in the down stuff, and, I wish, that's so important. But I can you say, but you don't really know I'm being touched. But if I'm laughing, if people are laughing, you know you got them. So I think maybe you think that is part of it, or?
No, I think it's funny because one of the things I do a lot is coach performance, and I work with people, and I always tell people, like, the laugh is the easiest way to know that you've got them, right? But don't force the laugh. Because sometimes people are moved and you just don't hear it. Because sometimes you rehearse something and it's perfect, and then you get on stage and you see somebody being like, I could get a laugh here, and it sort of cracks the moment. But so much of my writing is about violence, and one of the things that I think that I'm working through a lot is sort of this question of how do you live a life that is kind of inherently threaded with violence, with influenced by systems of oppression, sort of all of these things that are real in our life, and acknowledge that your life still has hope and potential. And this is one of the things I'm always trying to juggle, is how do we acknowledge the sort of very real severities of being a human, particularly being a human in very particular situations. And not, because I feel like I have the opposite. I go to poetry readings, or I do a lot of activism, and people are always like doing slam poetry where it's like everything sucks. And it's not just that, there's a political analysis, and I appreciate that political analysis, and I'm like, God, but we still live in this neighborhood. This neighborhood is like, our alderman is corrupt, yes. We have just closed 50 schools in Chicago. Like, this is serious, and I'm angry about it. But you know what? I still live in this neighborhood, and I love my neighborhood, and I'm always trying to figure out, like, what's that balance? And I also, in the rest of my life, write about lynching. I have a PhD in performance studies, and my sort of subject of research is racialized public violence. And it's one of those things where, like, someone asks you at a party, like, so what do you do? Is that a drink over there? What's that? And so I think I'm just a little bit sensitive about that too, that I went from working at a rape crisis center to spending like almost 10 years working on this project about lynching, and now I write about like racism, just always trying to like lighten it for people. But maybe I shouldn't. I should just be like, bam. Here's what I think. I'll light a candle.
Well, it's funny because even the pieces that you got were very heavy. I felt like they all had humor in different ways, and it didn't feel very heavy. So maybe it's like in context of like what is regular for you.
Right, regular. True.
Anybody else? Going once, going twice. So much to our performers tonight, and thank you so much to all of you guys for coming on Memorial Day weekend. Let's give these guys one more big round.